many times have people been warned to leave the state of California? Michael Snyder reports. Why do so many people insist on living in the state of California? Today it has the highest population of any U.S. state by a very wide margin. Approximately 39 million people live in California, and Texas is number 2 on the list with a population of about 30 million. I just don't get it. Those that live in California have to deal with relentless crime, the worst traffic in the Western world, a historic homelessness epidemic, hordes of drug addicts, endless earthquakes, giant landslides, and insane politicians that do some of the stupidest things imaginable. On top of everything else, wildfires have been ripping across the state with alarming frequency, and now we're witnessing a hurricane of fire that is unlike anything we have seen before. According to the latest update from Yahoo News, the Palisades fire is now more than 15,000 acres in size. According to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, known as CAL FIRE, there are 4 wildfires currently scorching Los Angeles County. The Palisades fire at more than 15,800 acres, the Eaton fire at 10,600 acres, the Hearst fire about 500 acres, and the Woodley fire at 30 acres. Officials said the Olivas fire was burning in Ventura County. All of the fires were 0% contained. The Palisades fire is already being called the most destructive fire in Los Angeles history. At this point, AccuWeather is projecting that the total damage from the cluster of wildfires will exceed $50 billion. A preliminary estimate of the total damage and economic loss from the cluster of wildfires ravaging Southern California, according to one report, has been put at from $52 billion to $57 billion. The report was released by AccuWeather on Wednesday, January 8, as the Eaton fire, Palisades fire, and Woodley fire continued to burn parts of Los Angeles County, spurring the evacuation of tens of thousands of residents. In 2025, our first billion-dollar disaster has come very early. Of course, we averaged a billion-dollar disaster about once every 2 weeks in 2024, and so many of us have become numb to the apocalyptic events that have been hitting our nation so frequently. Perhaps the damage from the current wildfires would not have been so bad if Los Angeles County had not decided to send so much of their firefighting equipment to Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands of residents and commercial locations have been left without power in LA area as the natural disaster has become so large in proportion that it has captured the nation's attention. Many have been naturally focused on thoughts and prayers for heroic LA and California firefighters and their hoped-for ability to push back the raging inferno, but several local headlines from prior years make clear that area firefighters could have had more resources to draw from if significant emergency response supplies and items were not sent to Ukraine Zelensky. Los Angeles County fire crews are sending some of their extra equipment to firefighters in Ukraine. A local March 2022 story reads, "The plane carrying that much-needed surplus equipment such as hoses, nozzles, turnouts, helmets, body armor, and other personal protective gear is expected to take off Friday," it said. And this began in the opening months of the Russian invasion and appears to have continued at various times over the last couple of years, with large expensive items like fire trucks having been shipped overseas as well. And just about everything the California politicians decided to do turns out badly. So why is that? Could it be possible that the state is cursed? Over the years, I have literally written dozens of articles about the state of California. I have warned people to move out of the state over and over again, and others have issued similar warnings. The good news is that a lot of people have left California in recent years. In chapter 19 of my book entitled Chaos, I commented on this mass exodus. Between April 2020 and July 2022, over 500,000 people left the state of California alone. Many of those ex-Californians have been relocated to Texas. In fact, approximately 300 Californians moved to the state of Texas on a daily basis in 2021. California should theoretically be one of the best places to live on the entire planet, but just like so many other blue states, it has been transformed into a cesspool of crime, drugs, homelessness, and violence. The population of the state has fallen a bit by about 39 million people still live there. In chapter 20 of Chaos, I explain why I rank California 50th for survivability out of all 50 states. Unless you feel directly called by God to go there, it's probably not a good idea to move to California. If I had to choose anywhere in the state, it would probably be the far northern portion away from the coast. But the truth is that even areas of the state that are relatively isolated are still within easy driving distance of areas of the state that do have a high population density. In addition, the coastal areas are likely to get hit extremely hard by major natural disasters in the years ahead. Over the past 12 months, the coastal areas of California have been relentlessly hammered by devastating storms, enormous landslides, and extremely destructive wildfires. But eventually, something far worse is coming. In chapter 6 of my book entitled Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, I talked about the colossal earthquake which will permanently alter the geography of the California coastline. Of course, I'm not the only one that has been issuing ominous warnings. Seismologists have repeatedly told us that the San Andreas Fault appears to be locked and loaded, and that it could potentially unzip all at once. If that were to happen, seismologists tell us that the ground level west of the San Andreas Fault could suddenly drop by up to 3 feet, and that could potentially result in large portions of Southern California suddenly being way below sea level. In other words, there would not be anything to keep the Pacific Ocean from suddenly rushing in and claiming vast areas along the Southern California coastline. And as you read this, you may think that such a thing could never possibly happen, but in recent years, scientists have come to the conclusion that such a scenario is actually quite realistic. When this disaster finally strikes the state of California, you will not want to be there. So if you live in the state, I would encourage you to get out while you still can. Of course, many of those that have lost homes to these new wildfires wish they had already left. We are less than 10 days into 2025, and so many crazy things have already happened. Sadly, I'm entirely convinced that a lot more death and destruction is ahead during the next 12 months. This is by Michael Snyder on The End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder, and about the author. Michael Snyder's new book entitled Why is available on paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 8 other books that are available on Amazon, including Chaos, End Times, 70 Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and he's always freely and happily allowed others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.